This segment brought to you by the Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center in Oakley.
It is springtime. And what does spring mean in Kansas? Well, it means babies. So, aside from the obvious calving and foaling and all those things going on farms, of course, Mother Nature's babies are arriving too. So, let's take a look at some of those babies that arrive in the spring, how their mothers take care of them, what that means in the whole circle of life. Hakuna Matata to you too.
Spring has sprung. The grass is green, so green it is nearly black. The wheat is thick and luxuriant. Corn is being planted. Calves, foals, lambs, and kids dot the pastures, clambering awkwardly after their mothers. Pink piglets and baby chicks, or widdies as we called them back in the hills, skitter across the barnyards. It is just the way nature intended. Babies come in the spring, when their chance of survival is greatest. The temperatures are warmer, the food sources more abundant for babies and nursing mothers, and the world is just a little easier, giving them the chance to mature before cold weather sets in. I myself am a spring baby, April 8th, and am thus optimistic and ambitious by nature. Dr. Jake, having been born in the fall when the world is slowing down, is more introspective. It takes all seasons. But alas, back to spring. Farms and ranches aren't the only places bursting with babies. The woodlands, the prairies, the marshes, and brushes all are full of life this time of year. May and June are primary deer fawning times, and we want to share some tips from the Kansas Department of Wildlife Parks and Tourism on these little critters. At birth, fawns weigh from about 6 to 9 pounds. They are essentially scentless for several days. This helps protect them from their primary predators, which include coyotes and free-roaming dogs, who are also feeding their young this time of year. Fawns remain relatively inactive for the first 3 or 4 days. The spots they are born with serve as excellent camouflage during this period. To avoid attracting predators, the doe intentionally stays away from the fawn. However, she always knows where her fawns are and returns to nurse them 4 to 6 times a day. Humans who find a fawn hidden in this way often assume the fawn is lost or has been deserted. Rarely is that the case. The doe is probably somewhere nearby, hiding from sight, and she will return to care for the fawn once the danger is past. Humans should leave these areas as soon as possible. Leave the fawn undisturbed. They should not attempt to, quote, rescue the fawn, because in all probability, the fawn does not need help. Even if the young fawn runs from its hiding place, the doe will find it. If a fawn feels that it is lost, it will call to its mother. This call is described as a bleat, and the doe will respond from a surprising distance. Fawns depend on their mother's milk until about 5 weeks of age. At 2 to 3 weeks, they begin to forage on new, tender growth vegetation such as grass, weeds, crops, and leaves. By the time a fawn is 4 months old, it's usually weaned from the doe's milk, but it may travel with the doe throughout its first winter. As the next fawning season approaches, the doe may drive grown fawns from her home range so that she may again fawn in her own territory without intrusion. Foxes, possums, coyotes, and a seemingly infinite variety of birds fill the air with their insistent cries for attention. If you are in our state parks, pay extra attention for the little ones crossing the roads or adults looking for food for the brood. Spring has sprung, and there are thousands of babies as proof. Welcome to Western Kansas Wildlife Travel Center, right here in Oakley, Kansas on I-70 at exit 76. I-70, after all, is America's Main Street, and we're right here on Main Street for you. Now that I'm an Oakley resident, I still come in almost every day, and I sit and listen to the conversations of the people around me. You know, the guys who are talking about the big elk they just bagged, or the folks who are taking their kid to college for the first time. People just traveling up and down the highway. Real people, just like you and me. And they find just what I find here, real people to serve them. There's history, there's scenery. We hope you'll stop and see